This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cavins.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the app today. Use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Also, take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Maybe you're looking at the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals for the third straight year, 6 years out of the last 8. Well, download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code again, CLNS, for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Greg, we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about this schedule that was released last night. But first, we have a bit of breaking news. Just a little while ago, it was broken by Field Yates of ESPN, of course, former Patriots employee, that David Andrews has signed a contract extension through the year 2025. We're looking at $12 million, Greg, the next 2 years with $8 million fully guaranteed. Your reaction on this deal that was just broken?
So a couple of different things. As it stands right now, like David Andrews' cap number was supposed to be $8.4 million this year, which I'm not all that concerned about the cap or even what his cap number is because, there's value in it. I'll be very interested. This should save them some money on the cap, about $3.5 million. Normally when you get to this point and you extend, I'll be interested to see if there's a dummy year or two on this to really, I think there's that aspect of it. I think that's really the aim of it. I think a secondary aim of it is to kind of reward a guy who's done everything the right way, been a really good player here. This is a guy who, remember, Belichick, pretty much screwed him when he gave him his last contract extension. Belichick originally offered Andrews a higher number, and when Andrews turned it down basically to go into free agency and listen, which he didn't have much of a market, so Belichick ended up being right. But then Belichick reduced the contract that Andrews eventually signed with the team. So I think that also factors in, and I think my other sort of takeaway is this is another move that I don't think Bill Belichick would have done. Not even close. I think he would have been content to make Andrews play out this contract, possibly even look at him as a cut candidate if somebody else emerges, that sort of thing. But this front office, this coach, I don't know who's making what decisions, but let's just say Elliott Wolf, because this is sort of another Packers type move, rewarding your own. Things are being done very differently around here now from a contract standpoint. And I think we've talked about it before with the Owenu extension, the Kyle Duggar extension, the Christian Barmore extension. Ramondre Stevenson's probably not too far off. Rewarding these guys who do the right things, who are good players with you, just sort of gets them in the right mindset to start this rebuild that might be a little bit tough. You're going to need these guys to see you through some lean times, and making sure that they feel valued is important. We've talked about it before, but a lot of some people scoff at the contract stuff and the players getting paid, all this stuff. There's only a few ways that you can show a player how much you respect them, and contract security and giving them what they are worth is a big part of that. It's part of the reason why Tom Brady didn't want to stay here anymore. And so I think all of those things combined are a reason to do it. It's a minor thing, but I think it's a good thing and sort of helps the program along.
Good luck, Jake Andrews. This might be another signal that that front office, not necessarily in love with the offensive line picks in last year's draft. You would figure that Andrews was going to replace Andrews. At least that looked like the plan from Bill Belichick. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Maybe Andrews, the Jake version, can find a spot at guard. Also, I think this tables any conversation, any thought about the idea of Cole Strange being moved to center now that you're keeping David Andrews. And I like, Greg, when you look at this, it's the idea of keeping the core of this team, the guys that you think are good players, but not only good players on the field, but good for the culture, keeping them in-house and keeping them happy. and I'm all for that. I do have a question for you. With all of these guys coming back and these extensions now getting done, you brought up Ramondre Stevenson, another guy we got to talk about. Obviously, he's still here. He wasn't traded on draft weekend. Matthew Judon. Should we anticipate him getting a deal done?
That is a good question. I think that might be more of a situation. I don't know. I go back and forth on it. If they don't do something to him before, like, we get the training camp, we're going to run in the same situation as last year, where he's like, I'm not holding out, or I'm not holding in. I have to get my body right. All that bull crap, when we knew it was a hold in.
Yeah.
He didn't start really practicing. Him and was it Devon? Who was the other guy who did
Lawrence
the same
Guy,
sort of
right?
thing?
Didn't Lawrence Guy have
Yeah. Lawrence Guy. They didn't start really. He never got anything done to his contract. But as soon as Judon got something done, all of a sudden he was taking part in everything. If I were in charge, I would play this along because I want to see what I have. And, maybe I think about dealing Judon. Remember, Anthony Jennings is back on a contract extension, multi-years. Josh Uche is just on a 1-year deal. We don't know how this personnel staff, how this coaching staff views Josh Uche. Is he going to be out there every day in every play? And, are they going to de-emphasize how much you need to hold the edge and stuff like that? Are they going to do things differently? I would like Matthew Judon to be back and part of this team, but I would want, if I were in charge, if I were Elliot Wolf, I would want to see what else I have. Does he really factor in that much, or do we want to play younger players? Do we want to play players that have a chance to grow and be part of this core going forward, where Matthew Judon really has a year, 2, 3, maybe as a designated pass rusher left in this league. He gets, hurt more and more every year. I would wait, but would it surprise me if they made him a good faith offer, a bump to keep him happy for 1 year? Yeah, I could see that.
All right, let's get to the schedule. The Patriots schedule release is powered by Game Time. Let's start with the first 5 weeks, Greg. Pretty tough. Pretty tough. Warren Sharp tweeted out that when you use projected win totals, the Patriots have the third toughest first 5 weeks of the season. They start the year on the road at Cincinnati against Joe Burrow and company, come back home to Seattle to play Geno Smith, and then they go on the road for 2 more at the Jets, which is a Thursday night game, and the Jets home opener on September 19th. Then they travel out to San Francisco on September 29th to come back home and wrap up those final of the 5 games we're talking about here. They play Miami at home. Just your general sense of the first 4 or 5 games here for the 2024 season.
So I disagree with and I understand you're absolutely right to point. I like Warren Sharp. I like his stuff. I think it's smart for the most part. I think the opening is. First of all, I think the schedule is pretty balanced overall, and if I'm the Patriots, I'm pretty happy with the schedule. But we're just talking about the open. I don't think the open is that daunting. Yes, do we expect the Cincinnati Bengals to be good in the open? And obviously, San Francisco in there is going to be tough, and they're going to be. I think the Patriots are already 7.5-point underdogs to the Bengals, and that's on the road. And Cincinnati's always a tough place. That can be a sneaky weather game. The Patriots don't have many weather games, but sometimes that's basically like Northern Kentucky in September, so it could be hot. But here's my thing on the Bengals. If people remember correctly, and I'm just looking back on it, the Bengals are notoriously, even under Joe Burrow, going to the Super Bowl, coming off Super Bowls, all this stuff, they are a notoriously slow starting team. Last year, they started 1-3. Their opener at Cleveland, they got poleaxed 24-3 by the Browns. The year before, this is when I'm pretty sure they were coming off. Oh no, this is the year they went to the Super Bowl. Okay. They started 0-2. They lost in overtime at home to the Steelers. I just want to check who the hell played quarterback for the Steelers in that game. It was Mitchell Trubisky. And Joe Burrow played like complete dog crap in that game. He had 4 interceptions. That's the 2022 season opener. I don't think they had a turnover against the Browns, but they got killed. So the Bengals, at least with Joe Burrow as the quarterback, they do not start well at all. And so I don't mind that spot. Yeah, they're a talented team, but I don't think it's overly daunting. I'm not like really afraid of it. The Seahawks, I mean, who the hell knows what you're going to get with the Seahawks? Yeah, they had a winning record the year before and all this stuff. You know, that's a West Coast team coming east, a new coach, John Schneider's still the GM, but a defensive head coach. Like, do they know what the hell they're doing? I don't think that's a bad spot. The Jets, who the hell knows what you're going to get out of the Jets? And 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles with a rebuilt offensive line. Tyron Smith could already be hurt by that point, 3 games in. You know, at San Francisco, that's daunting, okay? You know, going out there, at least you're going out there off of a Thursday night game. You have 10 days. You can figure crap out. And then the Dolphins at home, you know, another team that I think is figuring out a lot, you know, a new defensive coordinator. The offensive line is in flux. Yeah, I mean, on paper, is that a tough open? Yeah, but I think they've had tougher ones in recent years. So I'm fine with the open. I think they have a chance to win some games there and get off to a solid start at least.
I think that the schedule is tougher than you do. I will say that just from listening to you talk about it being balanced and all of that. I think this is a wretched schedule. I think the teams that we knew they were going to play, really tough to begin with. I don't think the league did them many favors. Yes, I get the idea of Cincinnati, slow starter, all that. I would also mention Joe Burrow. I think in 2 of the last 3 years, he's coming off of injuries. He was injured, I believe, last year at the beginning of the season. Wasn't really ever himself and healthy. So I don't know how much to put on Cincinnati and just being slow starters. I don't know how much to put on him, you know, being injured and not feeling right. I think Cincinnati's a really tough game. Really tough at Cincinnati to start that season. Seattle, I think Seattle, you've got an opening there. I think, you know, Mike McDonald, rookie head coach like you have, Geno Smith against this defense in Foxborough. I like your chances. I think the Jets are really tough. And the Patriots had difficulty. Yeah, I mean, they had difficulty with the Jets last year with Zach freaking Wilson at quarterback. Even if you have Aaron Rodgers at 80%, he's 1,000 times better than what you had in Zach Wilson. They've added weapons to that offense. The defense is not a joke. The Jets defense is always competitive with Robert Saleh. It's the home opener, first time since Rodgers blew his Achilles that crowd is going to see him in action. That's going to be absolute chaos in New York. And then you follow that up by going against the defending NFC champions on the road against San Francisco. That's no joke. And Miami is always challenging with that offense. You know, Mike McDaniel and Tyreek Hill, that's always going to be a challenge. I think that's a pretty rough start of the 5 games. Then we get to Game 6. And I want to mention Game 6 just because it is our game time hot ticket. Houston on October 13th. We'll get into Drake Maye a little bit later, Greg, and how this schedule might lend itself to Maye and when you might think about pulling the trigger on playing him. But I think the game time hot ticket is fun here at Gillette early on in the year because you get a chance to watch C.J. Stroud. And with the weapons he has, Nick Caserio coming back to New England, that'll be a fun storyline game early on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that extends, you know, if you think the start is tough, you know, I do think the Texans fall into that. You know, I do think that, you know, and I do think they're a talented team. And I think Nick Caserio's done a really nice job there. I do think sometimes, you know, and we sort of saw it with Mac Jones. You got to remember anything that sort of flashed last year that maybe you weren't expecting, like a CJ Stroud type of thing. the teams have had the whole offseason to pour over the film. And I think you saw some of this with Mac Jones going from his rookie year to year 2. Of course, there were other Matt Patricia circumstances at play and all that. But I do think that's very real that, the Texans haven't changed a whole lot. Bobby Slowick has returned as offensive coordinator, but all the teams are going to be pouring into the film, and maybe they come up with some things to trip up the Texans, and maybe they come back down to earth a little bit. But certainly for the Patriots in a rebuilding thing, it's challenging. That would be an interesting spot, for Drake Maye. But me personally, I'm pushing off his debut as long as possible, and I'm sure we'll get into when I think I would pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, we'll get back to that idea soon with Drake Maye and what Greg thinks the Patriots should do. The Patriots, Greg, they went to the NFL, and they said, hey, guys, can you do us a favor? Can you make sure that we play San Francisco and Arizona in back-to-back weeks so we don't have to travel from the East Coast to the West Coast twice, 2 different occasions this year? And the NFL said, hey, we've got a suggestion for you. Go screw. We're not going to do that. We are not interested in helping you whatsoever. So they are not going to. The Patriots will not have back-to-back games on the West Coast. They will play San Francisco, which we just brought up, on September 29th in San Francisco, or where they actually play, as we know. Not really San Francisco. But then you also have in mid-December, you've got to travel after your bye week, which we'll get to the bye week in a minute. But then you have to travel to Arizona on December 15th, right after the bye. So your thoughts on not getting those games back-to-back out there?
So my question is, are we sure that was rejected, that the Patriots indeed?
It was reported that they asked. Yes.
Okay, I was just looking to see, because Reese is normally on top of this stuff, if he said anything about that. Now, I'm just wondering if that could have been a Belichick maybe request. Like, I don't know how the timing works on all that stuff. I would be surprised if it was summarily rejected by the NFL. I haven't heard too many instances of that. But maybe that's the case. I mean, I just if that did happen, that's a tough break, because doing those back-to-back things, it's not really about the travel. It's more about like that you can gain, the camaraderie and all that stuff of being on the road. But the Patriots will have plenty of chances for that. I mean, they had the London trip. Maybe that factored into it. They usually go over early for that. So asking the team to stay out west and go early to London, maybe they just thought that was a bridge too far, when maybe they withdrew their request when it became known that they were going to play the London game. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, I saw it reported somewhere before. It was either this weekend or a little bit earlier than that. But Reese, yesterday, in his post about the schedule last night, he added in there, along with his biggest takeaway he had, and while the Patriots would have liked to have their road games against the Niners and Cardinals paired up so they could stay out west, they instead will be making 2 cross-country treks in a season. So Reese, again, standing by this thought that they did want those games married, and they didn't get it from the NFL. All right, Week 14 bye. Greg, is that awful?
It's pretty awful. Yeah, I mean, in all aspects except for one, and we'll get into that. And I can't believe what the NFL is doing with these bye weeks. Maybe they're setting the stage for the 18-game schedule and double bye weeks. But I mean, I think I saw it. They have 6. Patriots are one of 6 teams with a bye week, basically December, 8th, 9th, somewhere around there. Week 14. Week 12, I think, is nobody has a bye in week 13, if I'm correct. And week 12 also has another 6 teams, 5 or 6 teams that have byes then. This is just absurd. I mean, to make NFL teams and NFL players have to play 13 weeks, consecutive weeks of NFL football, let alone you have the gap between the preseason games. Like the last preseason game is August 25th, and then they play September 8th. So you basically get that's basically like 2 weeks from the end of the preseason to beginning of the season. But I mean, largely you're going every week since the start of training camp. And so the Patriots are going to be going 13. So you have August as well. 13, 7. That's like 21 straight weeks of football. I mean, that's just absurd. And, 13 weeks of actual NFL games week after week, including one in week 3 is on the short week, the Thursday night game. This is just ridiculous. It just is. Like, they might as well just go to 18 games with the double buys, now. At least that would give players a chance to get through these seasons healthy.
Yeah, it's gosh damn ridiculous. It's a Travis Sham mockery, whatever you want to throw on it. You could put the tent over the circus. To have a team play that much football without a break is insanity. And I'm glad you brought up the 18-game schedule because, Devon Gottschall made it a point to say, yeah, we're not going to talk 18 games unless they want to talk 2 buys. And when you do this kind of thing to teams during a 17-game schedule, it's just the one thing that really is a hair across my tuk-tuk is how the NFL tries to tell us all the time, oh, player safety this, player safety that. They're going to wear the condom helmets during games if they want to now. All these things, right? When it comes down to it, you have teams now playing on Wednesday this year for Christmas. You've got 18-game schedules that you want to do. You couldn't care less about having teams travel all over the joint internationally and how that impacts players and their rest. And it's such a joke. And we all know it's a joke. And this is just the latest example of that. All right, we'll get into Drake Maye in a minute. I'll ask Greg when he thinks Maye should start in his estimation given this schedule. But before we do that, let's tell you about Game Time.
Hey, everybody. The NFL schedule is out, including for your Patriots. I know you want to get to a game. I know you want to probably go on the road and see the Patriots in some sort of cool place like London, maybe, for the Jaguars, or Nashville, or Miami, or how about Arizona in the winter, December 15th. Definitely not Buffalo on December 22nd. Stay away from there. I beg you. But you're going to want to go on the road. You're going to want to see the Patriots. You never know when Drake Maye is going to get a chance to play. Guess what? You should go over to Game Time, the Game Time app. It is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NFL, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to kickoff. With killer last-minute deals, all in prices, views from your seats. I love the view from the seats. I got to see where I'm going to sit at anything. Game Time, it's right there on the app. I love it. So which games are your favorite? I mean, if I were you, I would San Francisco, of course. Got to go there. September, great time of year to go to San Francisco. London, who's going to join me in London? That's a great trip. Check it out on the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Drake Maye, Greg, we look at this schedule, bye week, week 14. You and I believe, discussed the idea of maybe waiting a little while with Drake Maye. And if you had that bye week in the middle of the year, it would be perfect to kind of insert him in at that point. Now that you got a week 14 bye and how this schedule stacks up early, what are you thinking about Drake Maye if you're Gerard Mayo and you want to play him this year? Because we don't know if that's a given, but if you do want to play him this year, where are you circling the calendar?
I am the only part of the late bye week that I'm happy about is, to me, it's provided that the Patriots are out of contention at this point. I think the week 14 bye week is perfect to insert Drake Maye and let him have the final 4 games to get his feet wet. Patriots are out of it. You know, got 2 road games. You got the Bills, 2 out of the last 3 games, which is also just ridiculous. They don't play the Buffalo Bills until December 22nd at Buffalo. But, get Drake Maye out in the cold in Buffalo, get him against Josh Allen a couple of times. You got Justin Herbert there. To me, in an ideal world, if the Patriots aren't in contention with Jacoby Brissett at the bye, to me, that's the perfect place to get Drake Maye his on-the-job training, get his feet wet for next year, build some momentum for next year. To me, that's ideal.
I'm less worried about when the right time is. I just think when Drake Maye is ready, he's ready. And no matter where you kind of put him in the schedule or try to slot him in, it would be nice if you use the bye to have that extra time to get him ready. I would agree with that part. Maybe you give him that extra week to kind of feel good about himself, even though it doesn't seem like Drake Maye needs extra time to feel good about himself. He's a very confident young man. He's got plenty of swag. But when you look at this, to me, it's just like, is he ready? Whenever he's ready, he's ready. You can argue that putting him in there against Tennessee because they weren't a very good team last year. So maybe the Tennessee game on the road wouldn't be bad. And then you got Chicago and the week after that, and then you can build into the bye, and then you take that bye. The thing is, after the bye week, it is kind of difficult because you go to Arizona, then you go to Buffalo, then you got the Chargers and the Bills. So you're really facing 2 teams, at least 2 teams. I don't think Arizona will be there just yet, but who knows? They were better than we thought last year. You've got 2 teams that are contenders. I mean, with the Chargers, we always talk, Chargers, but the idea is you've got Jim Harbaugh now running that shop. So it's a pretty difficult, first 4 games of an NFL career, not even counting the weather in Buffalo and that issue. One thing that really jumped out at me, Greg, I saw this, the Boston Herald last night on Twitter. The Patriots have the 4th most air miles this season, i.e., they are traveling a buttload compared to other teams in the league. How do you think that impacts them? Not necessarily the players, but more the coaching staff. Like, this is Drake Maye's first year as a head coach. There's a lot of things that he's trying to figure out, and now he's got to deal with flying all over the joint and trying to steady the ship, so to speak, during game week. How challenging could that be?
I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, really, outside, it's really 3 games. It's the London game, it's the 2 West Coast games, and so, is that tough? Yeah, but I don't think it's that big a deal. I think it's good to that the London game is a divisional opponent. The London game is the Jaguars and is sort of in the middle. I don't think it's all that daunting. I just most of their they're at Cincinnati, at the Jets, at Tennessee, at Chicago, at Dolphins, at Arizona, at Buffalo. So it's really the 2 West Coast games in London. I don't think it's that big of a deal for an NFL team. And, look, is this coaching staff going to be challenged this year by a lot of things and trying to figure things out? Yeah, but I don't think travel should impact that very much.
All right, let's talk about this defense, because I think it was on the podcast earlier this week I mentioned just the murderer's row of quarterbacks that this team is going to face. And now that we have the schedule, we can kind of clump some of these games together. So 5 of the first 6 weeks, you have Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy, and it's not necessarily Brock Purdy. It's that San Francisco Kyle Shanahan offense. Tua, and I say again, it's not necessarily Tua on his own. It's the Tua, Mike McDaniel, Miami offense. And then C.J. Stroud. Then you look at post-bye. Kyler Murray, not the easiest guy to face because he can extend plays and all that stuff. He can drive you crazy running with the football. But you've got Kyler Murray, and then you've got that ending of the year that we've mentioned a couple of times. So you've got Josh Allen, then Justin Herbert, and then Josh Allen again. So Justin Herbert is, the meat in the sandwich there. But you've got Allen, Herbert, and Allen to end the year. And, Greg, last season, this defense was 9th overall in DVOA. I would say this. If they are top 10 in DVOA this year, they are sure as hell going to earn it.
Yeah. I could say that's true. I mean, and they were also, top 10 without Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon,
right?
Who we think that they're going to have back. I just want to see. I'll be interested to, a few. I know you're pointing out because you do think that the schedule's tough, especially the open to the season. But I do think that there's a soft middle. Houston, I don't know how good they're going to be. They could be really good. But then at Jacksonville, I'm never enthusiastic about the Jaguars. They have talent, but they never seem to achieve it. I don't think that much of the Jets, especially the second time around. Who knows with their injuries and how old that roster is. And Robert Saleh, in that offensive coaching staff, the defense is good, but I don't think Robert Saleh can game coach at all. I don't think that the offensive coordinator is any good. Tennessee is sort of like your mirror image in terms of, they hired they got rid of a Patriots tough guy, hard ass head coach. The Patriots go with the defensive head coach. The Titans go with the offense. They spent money in the offseason. We're aggressive in the draft, all that stuff, everything that you didn't do. But, which program do I have more enthusiasm for? I would say the Patriots. And then at the Bears, a lot of talent on paper. And we got Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze. And, they have a bunch of guys coming back, DJ Moore. The defense is usually pretty good under Eberflus. But, if the Patriots are moving in the right direction with their program, they should have an opportunity to win some games. I mean, one thing we haven't, I also think they got to benefit from, there aren't really any bad weather games outside of Buffalo. They go at Jacksonville in October and at Miami November 24th. Both of those games could have been in September. We've seen that in years past where they've had to go there in September. So I think they got lucky. They also get soft dome teams, the Rams, the Colts, and the Chargers coming to New England. The Rams is November 17th, so maybe the weather's still good with global warming. But, you have a chance to get the Rams are coming from the West Coast. I think those are, advantageous. And, of course, we haven't talked about yet that the Patriots got one primetime game, a Thursday night game, which almost every team has to get one Thursday night game. I guess that's not a rule anymore because I think there's one or two teams that don't have any primetime games.
I want to go back to your Tennessee point and then jump to the primetime idea. I think the Tennessee game's interesting just because, as you mentioned, two teams in kind of similar spots walking into this offseason, and you couldn't have two polar opposites. How Tennessee attacked the offseason, how the Patriots attacked the offseason. And it's fascinating that game is smack dab in the middle of the year. You're talking, week 9 in early November. So it'll be fun to see where those teams are, who's performing, who's not performing. That'll be fun for us to take a look at.
It's a big scoreboard game. Scoreboard, right in the middle. They've had enough time to work out the kinks and all that stuff and, new offensive schemes and all that stuff. We should get a good test about we'll call it Felger Bowl because Felger was pants off about what the Titans did all off season and hated what the Patriots did. And just, I can't. If the Patriots beat the Titans that week, that Tuesday on Felger and Maz, I am just going to laugh my ass off in his face. Maybe I'll bend over and wave my ass in his face the entire time. Kiss my tuchus.
Oh boy. So all right, let's get back to the primetime game now. One primetime game, you mentioned it, and it's week 3. You get it right out of the way. It is the home opener for the Jets. As I said earlier, I think that place is going to be going bananas. Rodgers, coming back and all that stuff. Given if he's healthy, if he gets through the first couple weeks. But
it's early enough that fireman Ed won't want to jump off a bridge someplace.
True, he won't quit the season just yet. So, but you do look at this, and I would imagine, Greg, that Robert Kraft is not thrilled having one primetime game, especially it being on Thursday night. But this really is the NFL telling everybody what we know, coming off of a 4-win season. I don't think anybody would deem this Patriots team sexy to watch. You don't have Brady. You don't have Belichick. Kind of is what it is. I'm sure Kraft is just pining for those days of Monday nights and Sunday nights.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where Drake Maye comes in. As soon as Drake Maye is ready to go, and to your point, when he's ready, he should go. I just worry about, I push it off with Drake Maye because I'm worried about, I've seen it too many times where the bad habits that you work out, that you get rid of, that like when you put these young kids under stress too much, it all comes back and you've almost like gone backwards in terms of development. So that's what I'm focused on. But like, that's the importance of whenever Drake Maye gets his chance, let's just say it's when I say the week 14 bye and he comes out and they go to Arizona, they win that game. And then he goes toe to toe with Josh Allen, who, by the way, it could be a blessing getting the Bills late because, they're in sort of a transition period, with the whole Stephon Diggs, they lost a lot on defense. Like you could be looking at, Sean McDermott's a dead man walking if he's not fired already by this time, like in terms of where the Bills are. We'll have to see how that goes. But back to Maye, if he can finish up with going toe-to-toe with Josh Allen twice and Justin Herbert, all of a sudden that sets up the Patriots not only as a team and the enthusiasm for them going forward for the next season, but just in terms of now you have a face to put on the marquee. Like when you get into these division battles with Aaron Rodgers and Tua and Josh Allen, like now all of a sudden you have, Drake Maye and, he's the hick from North Carolina and, goofy and all that stuff. Yeah. Now you got somebody up there. I mean, but he's a good looking kid. Now you have something to sell. And now all of a sudden the Patriots are back in business.
Just you bringing up the Buffalo thing. Imagine if it's off the rails. For a fact towards the end of the year, if it's off the rails, is Bill Belichick Buffalo bound? That'll be God. For both of those games, the entire game is Bill an option. I can feel it deep in my lungs.
What if Bill's the interim coach?
They bring him in just to piss everybody off in New England.
Yep. He's there. So they fire McDermott. The season's lost. They bring Bill in just to start, they bring him in just to start being in the building and figuring out like what they need to do going forward, that sort of thing. And he's like just the overlord, like watching the Patriots and the Bills. That would be awesome. Talk about
like pro wrestling, and he comes running out of the stands with a steel chair and he nails Gerard Mayo in the back. Pow!
Yep. Mm-hmm. Thanks for shivving me in the back. Here's yours.
Oh my God. It can't be. It is. It's Bill Belichick. All right. So a couple of things, because I do think the schedule is tough, very tough, but there are a couple of things that some silver linings. First of all, in October, I find this interesting. You only leave Foxborough once in October, and that's to go to London. So you're not really playing on anybody's home turf in the entire month of October. You play Miami at home, you play the Texans at home, then you get that trip to London against the Jags, and then you come back to play the Jets at home on October 27th. And the other thing I would mention, this is from Brian Burke of ESPN, Greg. He posted last night the net rest differential. So how many days do you have off more than your competition has in a given week? And the Patriots have the second best net rest differential since 2002. The only team that has a better number is actually this year's Baltimore Ravens. And the Ravens have, I think, multiple Thursday night games, and they also play on Christmas, so they have that Wednesday game. So that kind of swings it to their side. But still, the Patriots have the second best net rest differential since 2002, which means they're going to have plenty more rest than their competition week to week this year. And that is something that is very significant.
Yeah, for sure. And, before you said it was the Ravens, I was like, well, this is what you get when you're not playing on Monday nights or Sunday nights. And, they only have you on Thursday once, and nobody wants to see you on Christmas or Thanksgiving. And so it's sort of like a net benefit to being at least underrated as far as the NFL goes. But that is for sure a big advantage. We've seen them get sort of screwed in that regard, but that's what happens when you're good. And it just amazes me that the Ravens are better Of course, I'm sure that nobody will bring up like conspiracy theories on how the NFL like loves the Ravens, and it's Bishotti for some reason. But
got another question for Greg, but before I get to it, check out Greg and Mike Giardi, who just landed a job. Even though you don't like me, Mike, congratulations. Check out BSJ.
A side gig, not a job.
Side gig. Congratulations on the side gig, Giardi. $50 over at BSJ for the year with those two guys tag teaming the Patriots with film. Obviously, Corrales gets to cover another Eastern Conference Finals. Tough life for him recently. Haggerty is covering Game 6 tomorrow night at the TD Garden between the Bruins and the Panthers. Looks like Marshy will be back on the ice for that one. So check out BSJ. Tons of great coverage. Anything about this schedule, Greg, that we haven't touched on just yet that you wanted to mention?
No, I mean, again, I don't think the schedule is, all that daunting. I do think they have a chance against the Bengals in Cincinnati. I think they definitely have a chance of Seattle at home. So, they have a chance to start 2-0. I'm not afraid of the Jets. And even being there on Thursday night in the Big Apple. San Francisco will definitely be a loss. Dolphins are probably a loss. Texans are probably a loss. And then, then you have a handful of games where, we'll see. I think there's a lot of toss-up games for this team. And, you get the Rams later in the season coming here. Who knows if Stafford's going to be healthy at that point with an elbow that's basically like hanging on. So, in the Colts, you never know what you're going to get. Anthony Richardson could be hurt by that time. So I just think in general, I like the schedule. I don't think there are too many stretches where you're just like, oh my God, they're going to get there. They're going into a wood chipper. So I'm encouraged by the schedule. The late buy is just absurd.
Don't ever say that Greg Bedard doesn't surprise you out there, because we're thinking wet blanket Bedard. And a lot of people, including myself, looked at the schedule and said, oh, well, that's awful. But here's Greg sprinkling in a little positivity for all of you. And I must say,
Mr. Sunshine,
I must say that you've made me feel slightly better about this schedule than I did before we started recording this podcast, Greg. So job well done, sir. I still think it's not a good one, but I give you credit. I give you some points. Don't forget, this episode brought to you by Prize Picks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. You can download the app today. Use that code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. He's Greg. I'm Nick. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. We got the Bruins on Friday night. Might have the Celtics on Sunday. Depends on what happens in the NBA tonight. But everybody, enjoy yourself. We're back early next week. Until then, it's the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with me,